Hello and welcome to an in-depth review of the GT70 20D077NE gaming laptop from MSI. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Here are some of the specifications for the GT70. As you can tell, it has an i7-4930XM processor unit, as well as a GeForce GTX 780 mobile graphics card. It comes with 16 gigs of RAM, and storage-wise it has 3 SSDs configured in RAID 0, which gives a total of 348 gig. Other than that, it also has a mechanical hard drive that is 750 gigs large from Western Digital, and that hard drive is running at 7200 RPM. Let's go ahead and have a look at the ports of this laptop. On the left hand side we have two USB 3.0 ports, an SD card reader, another USB 3.0 port, a headphone jack, a microphone jack, as well as line in and a line out. On the back of the laptop we have a HDMI port, a display port, a VGA port, a port for the Ethernet cable, power, and a place for a Kensington lock. Now I don't quite see why they've chosen to go with a VGA port instead of a DVI, since you're not going to be presenting a lot of PowerPoints on a projector unit. In fact, you're going to be gaming. And then a DVI port would have been way more suitable for this computer, due to the fact that VGA does not support 120Hz, neither does HDMI support 120Hz. The only way you're going to get 120Hz out of this computer is through the display port. And not a lot of the 120Hz monitors out there today have a DisplayPort input, which makes this a major downside for the computer. On the right hand side of the computer we have the Blu-ray reader as well as two USB 2.0 ports. The keyboard on the GT70 is made by SteelSeries. It measures 11 centimeters by 35 centimeters. It is backlit, and the backlight is customizable. As you can tell, the keyboard flexes quite noticeably. Situated above the keyboard on this laptop are some of the computer shortcuts. From the left we have a button to boot up the Power DVD 10 software included in this computer. I don't see why this button is here, since the Power DVD 10 software will boot up automatically anyways when you're putting in a DVD disc or a Blu-ray disc into the computer. Next to that we have the button to trigger the fans to run at 100%. We can try it out. I don't see why this is here either, since this mode will be triggered automatically whenever you're running any sort of demanding application. As you can tell, it's very noisy. In fact, it's the loudest thing I've ever heard in a laptop so far. Moving on. Next up is the light key for the computer's keyboard. This is the computer's keyboard in its original lighting state. By pressing it once, it turns into a sort of a gaming mode, where the left hand side of the keyboard is more lit up than the other half, and it's all colored in red. By pressing it again, and the color lighting fades away to the right. And by pressing it again, it turns it off, disables it completely, and by pressing it once more, it returns to its original lighting state. Next to that is the power button, and next to that we have the airplane mode button. I don't quite see why this one is here either, since you're not going to be using this laptop on the plane. This is a laptop for gaming, and then you're going to move the computer from one place to another, and you're not going to be running around with it. So I would have liked to see this button removed, as well as all of the other ones. This one might be slightly useful. Anyways, next to that, moving on, is the screen button. This disables the screen. It makes the computer keep running, but it disables the screen. I can press it like so. These buttons are fairly responsive. They're not the best, but they do their job after all. Next to that is a G button. This is not an anti-gravity button as you might think at first sight. This button actually triggers an overclocking mode. You have to push it down whilst you're booting the computer to trigger this overclocking mode. The screen on the GT70 measures 17.3 inches. It has a resolution of 1920 by 1080. The refresh rate of the screen is 75 Hz. If you would like to display 120 Hz on an external monitor, you would have to invest in a monitor with a DisplayPort input. The screen has a TN panel which is very matte. I don't see why they've chosen to go with a matte display. Since you're going to be indoors gaming and not outdoors looking at photos, you're going to value color over being able to be outdoors. Now we will be testing the speakers of the laptop. Due to copyright issues, I am only able to play very unknown music for you. And now, to get some diversity, I will also play some death metal. Now that we've had a look on the outside of the computer, let's go and have a quicker look at the inside. The inside compartment is easily accessed by removing 5 screws located on the back of the computer. Now, with the cover gone, we can have a closer look on the inside of the laptop. At the bottom we have the 750GB mechanical hard drive from Western Digital. I would have liked to see a 1TB or 2TB drive here instead. Why not, since there's still room for it, so why not simply include it? Above that we have the heatsink for the CPU unit, and next to that up here we have the GPU heatsink. These are all connected through heat pipes to a heatsink spreader, which is all operated by a fan. This is the fan which makes all of the horrendous noise we heard earlier. Here we have room to install another 2 RAM sticks. On the back of it we already have 2 installed. Here we have the 3 SSD units configured in RAID 0. On the left bottom side we have the battery, which can be removed by unlocking it and pressing the release button and pulling it away like so. The battery is fairly small actually. It's one of the smaller I've seen in a laptop in this size. The laptop performance is around, at a stress test it can only last for about 30 minutes, but browsing wise it can last for around 2 hours. It's also individual, as always when it comes to battery life. Next up we will be testing the thermal compound on both the GPU and the CPU to see if they made some poor decision when it comes to thermal compound, both the application and the actual compound itself. The computer has been stress tested for 10 minutes using both FurMark and 3D Mark Vantage. The temperatures mode has then been calculated from the collected data. What we found was 1 degree Celsius improvement using Arctic Silver 5, our own thermal compound that we applied to both the CPU and the GPU. The 1 degree difference is fully acceptable since it could really be just a margin of error. Whilst the computer was running both FurMark and 3D Mark Vantage, we took the opportunity to measure the computer's power usage. In order to ensure that the power was only drained from the actual outlet itself, we removed the battery pack. The peak values of power consumption spanned up to about 180 watts. During idle it was significantly lower and kept at around 80 watts. Now we will be testing the webcamera and the microphone of the laptop. This is recorded with the regular camera. This is recorded with the built-in web camera as well as the built-in microphone. The microphone's volume has been raised to maximum, and the distance between me and the microphone is the same as when using the digital camera. Now I will summarize some of the major disadvantages and advantages of the GT70. The GT70 comes with the Blu-ray reader. Now I know that there are some people out there who actually use a Blu-ray reader and find them very useful, but the majority of people don't. So I don't see why this is here at all. I would have liked them to use the compartment for cooling instead. The computer comes with a 750GB HDD. Now it has support for a 1TB drive, which could be mounted in the exact same place as the 750GB hard drive. So I don't see why they haven't included that from scratch. If you're aiming to make some of the world's most powerful gaming laptops, well then why not simply include it from scratch? And that goes the same for the 16 gigs of RAM. It has room for 32 gigs of RAM, so the same applies to that. Why not simply install it from scratch? Next up, which I want to talk about and bring up, is the bloatware on this computer. It is absolutely fully packed of bloatware. It's like, I haven't seen so much bloatware in a computer yet until I met this one. It's not just bloatware, it's actually antivirus software. Norton is installed from scratch, and it's not Norton licensed. It's not licensed to Norton. It's just a 30-day trial. And I'm not a big fan of Norton at all, and I'm especially not a big fan of them including it from scratch. It's a pain in the ass to try to uninstall it. Uninstalling all of the bloatware, including Norton, would take about 1 to 2 hours. And that's not something you would expect from a computer in this price class. Now, on top of all this, it does not have 120 Hz support through the monitor, and you can't put out 120 Hz other than through the display port. And not a lot of monitors out there today have, not a lot of monitors out there with 120 Hz has a DisplayPort input. All of these disadvantages comes with a high price, which I find absolutely obscure. There's no other way to put it. But to mention some of the advantages, it's extremely easy to clean. In fact, it's the most easy to clean gaming laptop I've seen so far. Actually, it's just remove the 10 screws on the back of the laptop, put away the cover, and take out the heat sinks, and well, clean it up and put it back in together. That's the major upside of this computer, because there's really no way, there's not really a solution so far when it comes to notebooks to keeping it clean inside. It's gonna get dust in there, and sometimes it may only take 3 months, and sometimes it takes 3 years, but either way, sooner or later that thing is gonna get dusty, and then you wanna make sure that it's easy to clean. Next up is that it's extremely powerful. This laptop comes with some of the world's most, well, I think it comes with the world's most powerful processor unit for laptops. It's the i7-4930XM and the GTX 780 mobile graphics card, making this computer an absolute monster. As you may have been able to figure out by this time, I cannot recommend this computer to anyone. Not even if you're sitting on a ridiculous amount of money and you don't know what to do with it. I cannot recommend this to you. This is due to the lack of 120 Hz monitors that other gaming notebooks out there have today, and the loudness of the computer. Those two things combined together makes this computer not buy-worthy. My name is Christian Sievers. Thanks for watching.